All right, can we be honest with ourselves? Let's say that you got on a bus, right? And a Jewish man got on that bus. He was wearing a backpack. You wouldn't sweat it. A Christian guy gets on the bus. You wouldn't sweat it. And then a Muslim guy gets on the bus, and let's say, like Gabe was just saying before we started broadcasting here, this guy was praying, and he was praying low, and then he had on a backpack. Let's say all of them were praying, and they had on a backpack. The Christian, the Jew, and the Muslim, which one would you fear would be blowing up the bus? I know this is, we can't touch that, but we have to. This is a real situation. We have to be concerned about what Biden has told the world when he unfroze $6 billion of Iranian oil money and gave up 5 Americans along with that $6 billion, or 5 Iranians in exchange for 5 Americans. He told the world that American hostages are worth $1.2 billion. Russia and Ukraine are not Israel and Hamas. And we're going to be talking about that on this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Guys, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble is where you can go. All things social media at the Carl Jackson Show. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, True Social Getter. Please join me there. I'm really trying to grow on Twitter and Instagram. Those are my focal points right now. So if you are on either one of those, please join us at the Carl Jackson Show, or it may be just Carl Jackson Show. But anyway, if you search for me, you shall find me. And what else? Oh, MyPillow.com. Mike Lindell has built a fabulous company. He's a patriot. The left are going after him, trying to destroy him. Why? Because he loves America and because he loves God and he loves patriots like yourself. So right now, Mike is offering all types of deals at MyPillow.com. If you use the promo code Carl, just spell my name, CARL, go to the radio podcast square at the top of the page, enter my name, or give them a call at 800-858-0263. 800-858-0263. Use my name as a promo there as well. There's products upwards of 60% off and more. So, mypillow.com. Also 10-year warranty, 60-day money back guarantee. Okay, so again, let's be honest. Let's be honest. I framed the question at the beginning of the podcast, and I'm going to go right back there. If you were an honest broker, and all of these men got onto a bus and they were praying, and all of them had a backpack, Christian, Jew, Muslim, who would you fear? And if you say none, you are a dead behind liar. And we all know it. Joe Biden has made it clear that he's weak, that he's feckless. The world knows it. The world knows that his administration is running that White House and not him. Everybody knows that he's corrupt. Everybody's got dirt on the man. Don't think that other, countries around the world don't have their own dirt on Joe Biden and their intelligence agencies. Of course they do. They know that this guy could be manipulated. They know that he's weak. They know that his own or Barack Obama's Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, at the time, when Joe Biden was VP, said he has been wrong on every foreign policy issue for, I believe, 40 years at the time. And he continues to be wrong. And for those of you that are trying to compare, well, Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Hamas, we shouldn't be involved in. Listen, we don't need to be involved when it comes to Israel. We don't need boots on the ground. But I think we should support them in any way possible beyond that. However, I take that back. We do have American hostages there. So if there are special forces, and we know that there are, that specialize in getting those hostages out, that is a very rough territory. I don't take it lightly, but we do have Americans there. Let's not lie about it. Let's not deny this. This is true. This is the case. And quite frankly, I don't believe the numbers. I think there's more Americans killed that are being mentioned. I think there's more Americans stranded in Israel that are being mentioned. I've heard numbers upwards of 20,000, I believe, from Representative Corey Mills. Forgive me if I'm quoting you wrong, Representative, and Governor Ron DeSantis, both of whom have been a part of flying Americans out of Israel and getting them back to America. So God bless them for doing that. But essentially, what Joe Biden has done, he's put a bounty on the head of Americans. You understand that, right? When Joe Biden swapped
5 Iranians, and you know they're likely terrorists. Why would we be jailing Iranians? They are the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. Why in the heck would we be jailing them if for no other reason than they were terrorists? And we give them up, we give them back. In exchange for 5 Americans, we give Iran $6 billion. That's $1.2 billion per head. This is where we are. I'm going to tell you guys how Islam is going to take over the country. I didn't believe this at first, and I just thought, listen, there's too many Christians, there's too many conservatives. It's just not going to happen. And then COVID happened, and I was like, wow, okay, we're not as strong as I thought. And then you saw BLM and Antifa, you saw CRT, DEI, all these ideologies, basically cultural Marxists and cultural Marxism, take over our institutions where Christians largely have been silent, a lot of secular Jews that have been silent, or liberal Jews that have been silent, even at times encouraging some of this nonsense. And you're like, okay, I see how this can happen. I see how this can happen. We don't give birth at the same rates that we used to, both in the Christian church and amongst Jews. It just doesn't happen like it used to. But Islam, they do. I'm going to give you some stats in just a second. But I just wanted to make this emphatically clear. We are under a threat like this Israel, Hamas, and make no mistake about it, it's really Israel, Iran, is one of the biggest threats we've seen. And what's scarier is we don't even know it. There are even conservatives. Oh, this is just like Russia, Ukraine. This is nothing like Russia and Ukraine. Are you concerned, regardless of how you feel about that war? All right. And I'm not there. I don't think it should be happening, but I think Biden essentially got us into a quagmire. I really do. And I feel horrible for the citizens of Ukraine. But there's no objective to win that war. It's just sending money. That's going to be a long, deadly war, sadly. That's the way that it's going to be. But even if we're wasting money, let's say sending money to Ukraine and Joe Biden and his partners are enriching themselves off of it, are you worried about a Ukrainian or even a Russian terrorist coming over to blow us up or kill us? But when we send money to Iran, it's a different story, especially when our borders are completely open. And I mean wide open. The Biden administration has been lying about the numbers. I've been talking to you a lot about this in the last week. Guys, this is so much worse than you think. If you think this is just another overseas war, Middle Eastern war, and you're buying into the propaganda of, from the left and from the people of Palestine, which there is no Palestine, so from Gazans, then you've been duped. This can happen here. Oklahoma City bombing. You guys remember that terrorist attack, right? 9/11. You remember that one, right? Right here in Orlando, and I'm sure there's more. I'm sure I can pull them up. But right here in Orlando, we have the Pulse nightclub shooting. San Bernardino, California. All of these were Islamic terrorist attacks. Right here in Orlando, they tried to make the Pulse nightclub shooting about gays. Oh, it was this guy out getting... No, it was an Islamic terrorist that literally searched his phone for clubs that were open. He even checked out, at the time it was called Downtown Disney. I believe it's called Disney Springs now, I believe. He even checked that out. But when he checked that out, he went down there. There were too many security guards. He didn't think that he could amass as many casualties. So he went to a place where he thought he could. And that happened to be Pulse nightclub. He saw that he could walk in, no armed guards, so on, etc. And the guy just lit it up. Just lit it up. You can also look at these rallies that are happening around the country. These, what they say they're pro-Palestinian rallies. They're not pro-Palestinian. They're pro-Hamas. They're anti-Semitic. That's what's really happening. There's only one religion out there that says kill the infidel. The person that doesn't believe in what they believe. There's only one religion out there that does that. It says today, there's a scripture in the Bible. This is in Deuteronomy. I forget which chapter and verse of Deuteronomy. But the Islamist says kill the infidel. The Jewish Bible, in the Torah, it says, today I set before you life and death,
blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. That's a big difference. Kill the infidel, choose life. If I went on, do unto others what you would have them do unto you. Now that's New Testament stuff, but it's still the Bible. Love your neighbors as yourself. No greater love than this, than a man that would lay down his life for his friend. That's the difference between Jews and Christians and Islamists that say kill the infidel. Let's be honest, guys. The reason why there can be rallies against or for Palestinians is because no one's scared of Christians, no one's scared of Jews. No one in their right mind should believe the propaganda coming out of Israel, that Israel is killing all these people. If we're so concerned about Israelis or Jews killing innocent people, why haven't they done it here? Why aren't they the ones responsible for the Oklahoma City bombing? Why aren't they the ones responsible for 9/11? Why aren't they the ones responsible for the San Bernardino shooting? Why aren't they the ones responsible for the Pulse nightclub massacre? Why aren't Jews responsible for that? Because you and I both instinctively know that we have nothing to fear when it comes to Jewish people. It's amazing. It's amazing. Let's go ahead and run the clip of Gabe's favorite president, Joe Biden here. This is this is Joe Biden on 60 Minutes with, who's this guy? Scott Pelley. I forget his. I don't watch this stuff except for some of these video highlights. So anyway, this is Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes. Asking Joe Biden, thank God he asked him at least, about the $6 billion that he unfroze and sent to Iran. And by the way, that's not all. His sanctions relief, including what Iranians have been able to make on oil as a result of Joe Biden's sanctions relief, has led to tens of billions of dollars, upwards of $50 billion. They went from exporting 775,000 barrels per day of oil under Trump to now they're up to anywhere from 1.4 million barrels to 2.2 million barrels on any given day. They're making a buttload of money under Joe Biden. All right, here's Scott Pelley, 60 Minutes with Joe Biden.
Is Iran behind the Gaza war?
I don't want to get into classified information, but to be very blunt with you, there is no clear evidence of that.
At this point, no evidence that Iran is behind any of this.
Correct. Now, Iran constantly supports Hamas and Hezbollah. I don't mean that. But in terms of did they have foreknowledge? Did they help plan the attack? There's no evidence of that at this point.
Okay, so what an idiot. So Iran isn't behind the war, but Iran's proxies are. We have no evidence that Iran is behind the war, but let me be clear. Iran's proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah, are. Do you understand what a buffoon this is? Do you understand the low IQ you have to take this man seriously, or just the outright hatred for Republicans, Trump, anyone on the right? This is all right. Let's line the next one up. I want to see if you have any confidence in this. Man, you know what, Gabe? There was another video. I wish I would have sent you earlier, guys. I'm sorry. I know I'm recording this, but there was a video this morning that I watched, and there was a gentleman asking an Islamist why he hates Christians or something like that, what he would do to Christians. The Islamist said he would chop his head. If they were in war, he would chop the Christian's guy. The Christian guy he looks like he's from India or Pakistan or something like that, and he's interviewing this Islamic would be a terrorist. And I believe he may have been in. Oh yeah, that's it. Actually, man, Gabe, I didn't even realize I sent that to you. All right, so let's go ahead and play this. This is who we're dealing with. And the problem is, guys, we have open borders. So if you cannot compare Russia and Ukraine, get that out of your mind, to the Israel and Iran, or Hamas, if you will, war. Much different consequences. That war can, will, and already has come to America. And it's going to continue. Let's go ahead and roll this video, please, Gabe. Thank you. I didn't realize I sent that.
You're a liar. I wouldn't trust you enough to hate you as well.
So the point is you won't have a conversation with me because I'm a Christian.
No, I won't believe anything you say because you're a liar. And you're a Christian as well. I hate you for the sake of Allah.
You hate me for the sake of
I
Allah.
hate you for the sake of Allah.
All right.
I hate you for the sake of Allah. Every Christian, I hate you all for the sake of Allah. Any Jew, any Christian, I hate you all for the sake of Allah.
He hates me for the sake of Allah.
You hate these bastards and the other bastards as well.
Would you kill me if you get a chance?
If we're in war, I would chop your head off.
Yeah, Allah guide you.
If we're fighting in war, am I supposed to let him kill me? I said, if we are.
No, let's ask this again. Do you hate me?
Yes, I hate you for the sake of Allah.
Who taught you to hate me?
All right, that's all you need to know. Who taught you to hate me? Islam did. It isn't a religion of peace. It is a religion of hate. It's a religion of death. It is a religion of destruction. And it's here. It's here. I'm going to give you some numbers of what happened to Europe. Europe, I think it's irreversible. What's happening to Europe, I think, is irreversible. I think Europe will be basically an Islamic continent at some point. Certainly country by country. The numbers appear small now, but they are growing because they are producing like jackrabbits. So anyway, here's Joe Biden. Let's see if this gives you any comfort. This is Joe Biden sending out a warning to Hezbollah. If they attack from the north, which they've already made movements against Israel. So if they attack from the north, this is Joe Biden's message to Hezbollah. It is stern, guys. Once you hear what this man is about to say, Hezbollah, they are going to be quaking in their boots. They're going to be shivering. The terror, the power that's behind these words. Just watch. Let's roll it, por favor, Gabe.
There's limited fighting already on the northern Israeli border, and I wonder, what is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran?
Don't
come across the border. Don't escalate this war.
That's right.
He didn't even know what to say. Scott Pelley had to give him the words. What he meant when he said, don't make me look like the idiot that I am. Don't make me look like a foreign policy moron. Please, don't, Iran, not right now. I didn't give you the go ahead right now. This guy has put us in unbelievable danger. Joe Biden has. America is not safe. The globe is not safe. I know, listen, I don't want to get involved in conflicts everywhere, but let's be honest. America is a beacon on the hill. It is a shining light. When America is weak, there is no other nation that has risen to become as strong and powerful and kind as America. No, I'm not saying that we're sinless people. Of course, we're human beings, so we've sinned just like other countries have sinned. However, there is no other nation that has risen up that has done more good for the world than the United States of America.
Here's what FBI Director
Christopher Wray, whom I hope is out of a job very soon, has to say.
Especially for lone actors who may take inspiration from recent events to commit violence of their own. So I'd encourage you to stay vigilant, because as the first line of defense, protecting our communities, you're often the first to see the signs that someone may be mobilizing to violence. I'd also ask you to continue sharing any intelligence or observations you may have. And on our end, we're committed to doing the same so that together we can safeguard our communities.
So hopefully they'll stop paying attention to parents at school board meetings, Catholics that are attending, mass, or Trump supporters that participate in mostly peaceful protests, and focus on the real terrorists, the real threat, the real people that want to destroy America. The FBI has become such a joke, man. It's become such a joke. It's hard to even take them seriously, but hopefully they will. I suspect that both Biden and the FBI Director, Christopher Wray, it is in their best, what's the word that I'm searching for? They want to make sure, basically, that a terrorist attack doesn't happen under their watch. I'm not so sure that's true with Joe Biden. I take that back. I'm not so sure that's true with Joe Biden. Maybe if a terrorist attack were to happen, that's a way for the federal government to try to take away more of your rights, your civil liberties. So who knows? Because it doesn't make sense what's happening on the border. I'll give you some more numbers here.
in just a second. There are a couple of stories that I do want to share with you. One actually being a good report that I'll share with you real quickly, and then I want to jump right back to now is the time to get right with God. Go out and get yourself some food, water preparation. Go out and get yourself some ammo, firearm. I sincerely believe this. I don't say this to be a conspiracy theorist or whatever. I just don't think our borders are wide open. I don't see how we don't have a significant terrorist attack. And we already, in a sense, have attacks coming from us or to us from China. By way of fentanyl poisoning all across our nation. So there's already an attack on us. We've already had the COVID unleashed on us by China. I believe that. I didn't believe that before. I believe it. I believe it. So now what else? What else is going to happen? You better be ready. Let me at least give you a glimmer of hope leading up to 2024. This from Breitbart, shocker in Louisiana. So Republican Jeff Landry, he's the Attorney General of Louisiana, and he won the gubernatorial race over the weekend. And this wasn't meant to be a race. They have what's called a jungle primary, which absolutely sucks. I hope as governor, I don't know what their state legislature looks like. In other words, I don't know if there's more Republicans in the House and the Senate of the Louisiana legislature. I should have looked that up, but I did not. But either way, I hope that they get there. They need to do away with these jungle primaries. That's how the left was able to destroy California. Basically, with the jungle primary, it is the two highest vote get. Anybody from any party can get involved, or even the same party. The two highest vote getters face off. So it could be two Democrats. It just so happened that Jeff Landry was at least very popular amongst conservatives there as the Attorney General, fighting back against Joe Biden and some of his dictates, if you will, from the from the White House. So you have Governor John Bel Edwards. He's a Democrat. He's been in office for 8 years. The state is a southern state. It has been somewhat of a purple state, but this will definitely help out. And here's how Jeff Landry won. Basically, in this jungle primary, if you get below, I think it's 50% or below. I think you have to get 50% plus one. And if that's the case, if you get under 50 points, basically, then you have to have a runoff with the second highest vote getter. Well, Jeff Landry got 52%, meaning it's not a primary. He just outright won it because more people showed up to vote. So now Louisiana has a Republican governor. So thank God for that. That is very, very good and important news. Now, I hate to bring you back low real quick, but I got to do it. House GOP interests a bill to block Palestinian refugees from coming into the United States. Guys, do you remember that the Biden administration loaded up, what was it, like 70,000 Afghanis from Afghanistan after the surrender from Joe Biden and brought them here into the United States? I have no idea where these people are. I have no idea if the federal government knows where these people are, but they're now living within the United States. We found out later that they were not vetted. The U.S. pretended, the U.S. government under the Biden administration's leadership pretended like these people were vetted. We found out later they absolutely were not vetted, and they were released into the interior. As a matter of fact, at least one or a couple of them tried to rape a soldier at one of the bases in which they were staying on initially upon arrival into the United States of America. Because that's the way they roll. That's the way it's done in their culture. These people didn't want to come here. These people didn't want to assimilate, and they're not going to assimilate, and they're not being asked to assimilate. And that's why America is in deep doo-doo when it comes to this Islamist threat, because we're not taking it seriously. And quite frankly, we don't even have enough conservatives that understand the threat. They see it as, oh man, this is just a religious thing. Christians going crazy, Jews going crazy. Oh, this is the next Russia, Ukraine. No. These people have already attacked us, guys. These people are already here. Let me remind you of some, do I have them on me? Let me remind you of some numbers that I shared last week on the podcast, as well as over the airways. These are called special Let me see right here between my formerly fingerprinted fingertips here. Here's how many illegal aliens from terrorist or suspect nations were encountered at the border. That's not the one I'm looking for. They're called special interest aliens. Maybe this. I'm sorry, guys. I'm fumbling. I got a lot of research here that I'm fumbling through. Let me just go back to this. Here's how many illegal aliens from terrorist or suspect nations were encountered at the border. This is from the Heritage Foundation or Daily Signal, their podcast, and I don't know what you call it. They write a lot of columns there, all right? So anyway, the U.S. Border Patrol has encountered 72,823 what they call special interest aliens. I shared this news with you last week, but it's even more so important now given what we're seeing in the news. So 72,823 special interest aliens on America's border over the past 2 years, many from the Middle East. This, according to a Fox News report. A special interest alien is a government term used to refer to an illegal alien from a nation that either promotes terrorist activity, harbors terrorists, or poses a possible security threat to the U.S. Now, what I thought I mentioned, but I'm not sure that I mentioned it. The House GOP introduces a bill to block Palestinian refugees from coming into the U.S. So I mentioned the Afghanistan they're not even refugees. Voters, Democrat voters that Biden brought over from Afghanistan. They're looking to bring upwards of 1 million Gazans. I'm not saying Palestinians because there's no such thing as Palestine. Look at it on the map. It's a political term that was made up by Arabs that hate Jews in 1967 as a way of it was strategy basically to further sully to further sully Jews is basically all it was. So you have two Republican representatives, Congressman Tom Tiffany from Wisconsin and also Andy Ogles from Tennessee. They are set to introduce a bill. It's called the Guaranteeing Aggressors Zero Admission Act, otherwise known as the Gaza Act. The legislation is meant to prohibit Biden from giving visas to anyone that holds a Palestinian passport, and would also forbid the Department of Homeland Security from allowing Palestinians into the country as a result of its parole program. This is what one of the congressmen, Tom Tiffany, had to say. We can't let President Biden abuse our parole and visa rules to bring unvetted Palestinians into American communities the way he did with thousands of unvetted Afghans. I introduced the Gaza Act to protect America's national liberty. I want you to think about this. The surrounding Arab nations, like Egypt, Jordan, will not allow Gazans or so-called Palestinians into their country. They want nothing to do with them. Egypt is sealing the border on the other side. Egypt is sealing borders around the other on the other side of the border. At the what is it? Is it the southern or? I believe it's at the northern tip. Anyway, I forget. All right. So anyway, Egypt is blocking the border. Egypt is not letting any of these Gazans into their country. Hamas doesn't want to let them in either because they're using them for propaganda. They use Gazans or so-called Palestinians as human shields, and then when they shoot off rockets or shoot at Israelis, and Israelis wind up killing some civilians trying to get to the terrorists, Hamas takes pictures of the civilians that died as a result of them using them as human shields and blames Israel for it. That's what's going on. But ask yourself this question. Why is it that none of the countries around Gaza will take these Palestinians? Ask yourself that. No Arab country. Just sit and think about that. What does that say? If Muslim countries are fearful of taking these Gazans, why the hell should America? So thank God, at least these guys in the House are doing what they can to try to introduce a bill that'll keep these people out of here. Marco Rubio is trying to do the same thing inside of the Senate. He says he's preparing to introduce his own bill to force the Biden administration to cancel all visas for any foreign nationals who, quote, endorse or espouse terrorist activity. He says America is the most generous nation on earth, but we cannot allow foreign nationals who support terrorist groups like Hamas and march in our streets calling for intifada to enter or stay in our country. He goes on to say the Biden administration has the authority and an obligation under existing law to immediately identify, cancel the visas of, and remove foreign nationals already here in America who have demonstrated support for terrorist groups and in many cases even celebrated the slaughter of Israeli babies and the rape of Jewish girls. Yeah, that would be a good idea. That would be a great idea. Now, let me bring you this in closing. I told you how Islam is going to take over the United States of America, and I'm increasingly starting to believe this because we've lost our moral compass here. We've lost our religious compass. That's the glue. The Judeo-Christian value system is the glue that holds all Americans together, and that is being eroded by our institutions, college campuses, churches, entertainment. Unfortunately, we have not been talking about the value of the Judeo-Christian system. And as a result, you have generations of Americans that just don't even get it. They've been taught in school, they've been taught in entertainment that America is this evil place, this racist place that raped and pillaged and got everything we wanted and built this nation on the backs of slaves and oppression of other, minority people groups and all this kind of stuff. That's all these kids are being taught, and they believe this stuff. So we're in a bad spot. And unfortunately, when you see the dummies at Harvard protesting, and you see the people in the streets in New York City and other big cities around the country protesting in favor of Palestine, which essentially they're saying they're pro-Hamas, we're in serious trouble. But I'll give you 5 specifics of why America is going to be taken over by Islam. And I told you that the first and foremost, actually, I'll give you 5 others. The first and foremost that this columnist didn't write about, it's as simple as this. We don't know what we stand for anymore. If you lose the foundation of the country, the Bill of Rights, that came from our Judeo-Christian value system, you lose that, you lose everything. But here's how the Muslims, the Islamists, have taken over in Europe. This is a Pew Research study. I believe this is from 2017. The first thing they say, France and Germany have the largest Muslim populations in Europe. Now, keep in mind, these numbers are larger now. This is literally six plus years old. As of mid-2016, actually, there was 5.7 million Muslims in France. That's 8.8% of the country's population. 8.8% of the country's population, and 5 million Muslims in Germany, 6.1%. The EU country in which Muslims make up the largest share of the population is Cyprus. The island nation's 300,000 Muslims make up about 1/4, or 25.4% of its population, and are mostly Turkish Cypriots with deep roots in Cyprus. Also, number 2, the Muslim share of Europe's total population has been increasing steadily and will continue to grow in the coming decades. Now, I'm going to tell you why these numbers are so significant, because it's happening here in the United States as well. From mid-2010, this article says, this is from Pew Research again. From mid-2010 to mid-2016 alone, the share of Muslims in Europe rose more than 1%. Listen to me. This is huge. This is huge. In 6 years, the share of Muslims in Europe rose a whole 1%, from 3.8% to 4.9%. That doesn't happen. To put it into perspective, the black population in the United States of America, especially since Roe v. Wade, has basically remained anywhere from 12 to 13%. These people in 6 years grew by 1%. Black people, in contrast, in 50 years, our numbers have remained about the same. Percentage-wise, anyway. That's just huge. That's just huge. So by 2050, the share of the continent's population that is Muslim could more than double, rising to 11.2%. They predict, and I think it'll be more than that, depending on how much migration is allowed into Europe. Even in the unlikely event the future migration is permanently halted, the study says the Muslim population still would rise to an estimated 7.4% due to the relative youth and high fertility rates of Europe's current Muslim residents. That's what they do. They just go and they actually have sex with their partners and have babies, while you have Westerners that promote abortion. It's as simple as that. We practice depopulation. We scare our kids into not having children, telling them the world is going to end with climate change and their kids are going to be incinerated. We tell kids, no, you're not a boy, you're not a girl, you're whatever the hell you want to be. And so they destroy their bodies and they don't, and they won't be able to have kids. But Muslims, when they go to a country, they populate. And they're young. They are young. Muslims are much younger and have more children than other Europeans. In 2016, that's number 3, the median age of Muslims throughout Europe was 30.4. That's 13 years younger than the median for other Europeans. 13 years younger, the median age. Looking at it another way, 50% of all European Muslims are under the age of 30, compared with 32% of non-Muslims in Europe. In addition, the average Muslim woman in Europe is expected to have 2.6 children, a full child more than the average non-Muslim woman. Number 4, between mid-2010 and mid-2016, migration was the biggest factor driving the growth of Muslim populations in Europe. I told you that our borders are wide open, right? 3 million people have entered the country illegally in the last fiscal year, September 30 through September 30. 3 million people. 99.7% of those people have just been allowed into the country. They haven't been vetted. They've been allowed into the country. We are going to be a Muslim nation unless this stops and somehow Americans readopt biblical values, Judeo-Christian values. So between mid-2010 and 2016, migration again was the biggest factor driving the growth of Muslim populations in Europe. An estimated 2.5 million Muslims came to Europe for reasons other than seeking asylum, such as for employment or to go to school. About 1.3 million more Muslims received or expected to receive refugee status, allowing them to remain in Europe. An estimated 250,000 Muslims left the region during this period. Natural growth was the secondary driver. Among European Muslims, there were 2.9 million more births than deaths. 2.9 million more births than deaths with Muslims in Europe during this period. So religious switching is estimated to be a small factor in the Muslim population change. So you're not going to get a lot of Muslims converting to obviously Judaism or Christianity, with roughly 160,000 more people switching away from Islam than converting into the faith during this period. And I'm shocked to see the numbers are that high, frankly, and glad to hear the numbers are even that high. But it is what it is. Views of Muslims vary widely across European countries. A 2016 Pew Research Center survey conducted in 10 nations found that negative views about Muslims prevailed in Eastern and Southern Europe. However, the majority of respondents in the UK, Germany, France, Sweden, and the Netherlands gave Muslims a favorable rating. Views about Muslims are tied to ideology, while 47% of Germans on the political right give Muslims an unfavorable rating. Just 17% on the left do so. The gap between the left and the right is also roughly 30% points in places like Italy and Greece. Now, some of these people are starting to realize, like Italy, for example. Oh, man, and I forget the name of the new president there, but she's a bomb. She got elected, I believe, less than a year ago. She recognizes this problem. She speaks to this problem. But a lot of these European nations, they have not spoken to this problem. They've done nothing about it. Their borders, in many cases are open, not to the extent that America's borders are, but we're in trouble. 3 million people in the last year have come into our country. We don't know who they are. The Biden administration has admitted that about 99.7% basically have been allowed in. I mean, the numbers are staggering. There's no stopping this. So again, just to reiterate what I said at the very beginning of the podcast, I'll close it out with the same thing. Let's be honest. You got onto a bus, a Christian, a Jew, and a Muslim got onto the same bus wearing a backpack, and they're all praying. Who do you fear? Islam tells us to kill the infidel. The Jewish religion says, today I set before you life and death, blessing and cursing, therefore choose life. Therefore choose life. No Arab nation in the region of Palestine, Gaza City will take Palestinians. Why? You got rallies all around the globe that are pro-Palestinian. These people don't fear Jews. They don't fear Christians because we don't go kill people and we don't go blow up things. It's as simple as that. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please, please, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. We're on YouTube and Rumble. Some of you, if you want, you can give us special thanks there. We would just appreciate if you share the podcast. That is the most important thing. Share it, review it. I believe you give us a 5. That helps us to move up the charts. We would certainly appreciate that. Tell your friends and neighbors. Tell your family members about this podcast. We really do want to get the word out. Follow me on social media. The places where I am the most: Twitter, Instagram. I am on Facebook, although Facebook sometimes shuts me down a little bit. But I do reply to messages on Facebook and Twitter. Those are the easiest places, so you can find me there anyway. So please do. Until next time, guys, don't grow weary doing good, and God bless you all.